and appreciation that whatever happened in college, Dave Bing was a much better professional player than I was. But I was lucky to be on the right team. And I'll also say that I have treasured his friendship all throughout those 45 years. When I ran for president in 2000, when you're running against a sitting vice president with the whole power of the White House behind him, the whole labor movement behind him, all the official party apparatus behind him, all the state chairs behind him, you kind of say, you find out who your friends are. And Dave was there for me in 2000, and I will never forget that, and I deeply appreciate that. These days, people always ask me, well, what do I miss about not being in politics? And I miss two things. I miss not doing public policy 24 hours a day. I love doing that. I love trying to figure out how to make things work, about education or healthcare or whatever. And the second thing I miss, and I try to fill that gap sometimes by writing books. I've written a book called The New American Story out last year. By the way, it's still available. I can get you a discount. And the second thing I miss are the people in all their shapes and sizes and all their angers and joys and hopes. It was amazing. I sat next to Dave here today, and I said, Dave, what do you like most about being a candidate? He says, the people. The stories that you hear. You're going to be the mayor possibly, or the president possibly, or the governor possibly, and people look at you a little differently, and they give you something that is treasured if you accept it, which is their trust, their hopes, and their fears, and sometimes their angers. And it's very humbling to have that kind of experience. And not being in politics every day, that doesn't happen. But I try to fill that gap by doing a radio show on Sirius Satellite Radio called American Voices. And it's every week. I interview people all over the country who are doing really interesting things. Usually do somebody that's got an unusual job, like a groundskeeper at Fenway Park, or a guy that teaches people how to wrestle alligators. Unusual festivals, like the duck calling contest in Stuttgart, Arkansas, right? And always something where I interview somebody that will illustrate what I talked about a lot in my political life, which was the goodness of the American people. The stories of people that you don't know unless you've been out there and having people tell you their stories. And the whole premise was to get people to feel the kind of stories I heard 40 years on the road as a player and a politician. And these stories that illustrate the goodness of the American people are really what the show's all about. That was my motivation. And what kind of people am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about a guy in Pittsburgh who shined shoes at the Pittsburgh Children's Hospital for 46 years. And out of every tip he got, he put a portion of that tip into a fund to pay for poor kids' health care. And the day I interviewed him, I said, how much have you put away? He said, $150,000 over 46 years. I had started doing this on Sirius, and people would come to me at the network and say, what do you do when you run out of these people? I said, you don't know America. I'm not going to run out of these people. And if you think about it, it's one of the things that typifies the real strength of our country. I interviewed a woman outside Chicago. She had a great Chicago accent. And she told me she had a son who was 11 years old, developed cancer. And so she began writing him letters because he came home when he was in the hospital, he got a lot of letters. Came home, nobody wrote him letters. So she began to write him letters. Bad week,